Okay, this is going to be really fun, and I've got one question for you, David. What was the best part of working on JAG?
Well, aside from working with you, the best part probably was, and I've said this before, I think the best part was the opportunity to practice the craft that intensely every day for, as you know, sometimes 18, 20, insane hours. Do you remember, I was thinking about this the other day, do you remember that night, you and I don't know what, we must have been, I think we were going into hour 25 and Brad May was directing. And
Right.
you opened your mouth to speak and it just was like, and I started laughing. I couldn't stop laughing. We were laughing so hard. And Brad,
I couldn't make more. No,
I couldn't even speak words. We were so tired. And Brad finally went, you know what? Let's call it. We're done. That was the funniest thing I'd ever heard.
I turned into Scooby-Doo. From the heart of Hollywood, it's the Patrick Labyorteaux with Patrick Labyorteaux.
It's the Patrick Labyorteaux. Patrick Labyorteaux. He's the one you gotta know.
Tonight's episode, David James Elliott.
Patrick Labyorteaux. He's the one you gotta know.
Okay, you know him as Harmon Rabb Jr., ace fighter pilot, and a lawyer who showed daring and tenacity in the courtroom on the TV show JAG. I know him as the actor I have worked with more than any other human. Please welcome my buddy, David James Elliott. David, hey. Welcome.
Love
How you
to
doing,
be
buddy?
here. Loving being here, Patrick.
I thank you so much for doing this. Just so everybody knows, you are not here in the United States. You're off in the Bahamas. You have a place there. You kind of grew up there in some ways. You had a lot of time there. But let's just set the table here for people who don't know. You and I were on a TV show, a military law show called JAG. We worked together on the pilot, and then you went and did a series, a year on NBC, and then I joined again on CBS from season 2 through 10. And like I said in the introduction, man, there is not one single person, including my wife, Tina, who we created a TV show. I've never worked with any one person more than you. And I mean, for you, it may be different, maybe with Catherine or somebody like that as far as hours on the set. But yeah, so that's how we know each other, like you're saying. It's like we've spent like hours, like real life together. So it's really great talking to you. And thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me, man. Do you know, I know you know this, that the reason you came to be on the show was because you were so good in the pilot, and then after the first, when we got picked up for the mid-season replacement, and I was talking to Don, and I said, why don't we get Patrick to come back? Because he was so good. And
I did not know this.
You didn't know this, yeah. Well, Don was like, yeah, you know what, I liked him too. Yeah, that's how you came to be back, man. Because I said, let's get Patrick Labyorteaux back. He was terrific. Well,
thank you.
Yeah. So you owe me money.
I owe you a lot. Well, the funny thing was I had done, we did the pilot, and I was a guest star on the pilot.
Yeah.
Wasn't part of the show. But you and I got along together so quick, so fast that Don's not an idiot. I mean, he sees it. So, like,
there
when
was
you
good chemistry. You were funny. You brought a nice tone to the show. Yeah.
It's a balance that you guys, that if you know the show from the first year versus the second year, you can see where all the changes were. We'll get into that later.
Okay.
Yeah, I went off and I did another series for Fox.
That's right.
And I get this call.
And it didn't go.
Well, it went 8 episodes, and then when it got canceled, no one called me from Fox. I got the call from Don. And Don says, hey, you want to be on a real show?
Yeah. Really?
And that's how I found out that my show was canceled. Act 1, beginnings. But let's get back to David James Elliott. Okay, so beginnings, man. You're from Milton, Canada, which is, a huge, huge city. Everyone, it's world famous.
Yeah.
Why would a kid from Milton, how did you get to become an actor, man? What was it that was calling you?
it was high school was closely the end was approaching, and I was like, what the heck am I going to do? My father had always said, you guys are going to college. And I had I was not a great student.
You
I
had
had
two
always
older
felt.
brothers, was it?
I have two brothers. I
Yeah.
had two brothers. I have one brother now. One passed during the filming of JAG. He passed.
Yeah.
Oh no, he didn't. No, it wasn't. No, my father passed when JAG was on, but my brother passed away later at another when I was shooting a movie. Um, but I've been attracted to more. I felt more of an artistic bent. I'd been in rock and roll bands. I tried to make a go of those, and then we were reading King Lear in this history in this grade 13 in Ontario, Canada. You would go to grade 13 if you wanted to go to university. You had to go an
Uh-huh.
extra year of high school. They don't do it anymore, but they did when I was there. It was the
Kind of like
only
a junior
province in
college
Canada
here.
that did it. And we read King Lear, and the teacher said, you should be an actor. And I went, maybe that's. So my brother, who was in university at the time, talked to some guys in the theater program there, and they said Ryerson Theater School was the best theater school in Canada. If you were going to go somewhere, you should go there. So I
Uh-huh.
read Michael Shirtleff's How to Audition, because I'd never even seen a play. I knew nothing
Wow.
about being an actor. I read this book, and I went in and I auditioned, and it was a 3-day process. You spent all day there dancing, singing, doing improv, and whatever weird exercises for 3 days. And out of 1,200 people, they picked 30, and somehow I landed in there. And they said they saw a diamond in the rough. And
Well,
I
they were
think out of
right.
my class, I'm certainly the most successful guy that came out of there in my class. So the guy voted
But I
least
mean,
likely to succeed.
you're self-selecting yourself out of, by doing these things. Because again, this is not a business that it's a lot of work to be a success in this business. You can have a surprise, someone finds you, you become like a star out of nowhere. But those type of people usually don't continue. It's the work that you put in, and then you went on to Stratford and did Shakespeare there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Which is this huge festival in Canada. For how long were you there for? For
I
the
was
Shakespeare?
there. I was there for 2 seasons. They offered me a third, but I turned them down. And the way I got there was we were coming to the end of my time in theater school, like the end of, it was almost over. And there was a girl in my class who had a boyfriend who was actually a friend of my older brother's, who had gone to the same university he did, York. And
Uh-huh.
he told me where the auditions for Stratford were. And I didn't have one. So I went and crashed. I just went and waited, sat in the waiting room, and somebody came out. They'd call a name, people would go in, and eventually the guy
Uh-huh.
came out and he looked at me and he goes, Who are you? What?" And I said, "Listen, I don't have an audition, but if a slot opens up, I'd love an opportunity." And he gave me a curious look, and he went back in, and he came back out about 15 minutes later after the last guy. And he goes, "Come on in." I did it, and I got in. So that's how I wound up at Stratford, and then I
So
won
that's a
the.
that's a really traditional structured performance when you're doing Shakespeare. It's very, very obviously Shakespearean dialogue and Shakespearean
Yeah,
settings and the
right.
scansion and all the stuff that you're working on, the language itself. It does not lend itself to being naturalistic, but you have to bring that naturalistic quality so that you can connect with the audience. How much do you look at that training as how did that affect you as an actor? I mean, what did you get from it?
I mean, in so many ways. I mean, because Shakespeare's not something you don't go off script on Shakespeare, right? You got to be
Right.
you have to be word perfect. And plus I mean, he's possibly the greatest poet that ever lived. The way he structured his pieces, the characters. I mean, there's nothing missing. So
Yeah.
if you can handle that, you can handle most things. I would think.
Oh, for sure.
So it was
Did you
great
have a
training.
favorite that you did there? What was your when you left
One of the
there?
greatest things that I got there, because I didn't play any of the big roles. I understudied some bigger roles.
Uh huh.
but I got to watch the best in the world, the best classical work actors in the world, like Brian Bedford or John Neville,
Oh wow.
Douglas Campbell, and to watch these guys, because we would do four play, or I did generally three, but I did four. The first seasons I did Tartuffe, the Scottish play, Romeo and Juliet, and As You Like It. And I was in those four plays, and every night I got to watch these guys and how they worked. And it was just fascinating. And then at night, we would often do, certainly in the beginning in the rehearsal process, which lasted a couple of months before they mounted the pieces, they'd also, these guys would give classes for the younger people.
Oh
So
wow.
you would get to do these classes. And then we started to put on our own plays for the company at night. So we'd rehearse at the end of a long day of rehearsing, we'd work on a play that we wanted to show. And then on a weekend or a Friday night, we would mount it in the rehearsal space for the company. So
Right.
it was just a really intense time to just be all about your craft. It didn't get any better than that. It was a really awesome experience. So fortunate.
We'll talk about the details later, but I can see this base of yours, how it lasted, because I began working with you. You're not a one of those I don't care guys. You really care. You work on your script. You annotate your script. You look at it. You think about it. And I think that comes from having broken down all of this stuff and understanding how you create a character, where it comes from.
Right.
But I got to talk to you about something that I kind of don't know anything about, and you know all about, which is there's, as everyone knows, there's the United States and then there's Canada, and we both speak English and some speak French.
Right.
But like, there's this huge other industry in Canada where you thrived for a long time working in Canada, where when I was going through your credits, obviously I recognize you, and I'll pick out one or two other people, but there are huge stars of these TV shows in Canada that we've never heard about in the United States. And it's like a whole separate industry up there. How is breaking into the Canadian industry different than breaking into the Hollywood industry?
It's changed a lot since I was there. I left in the late 80s, and it was a completely different industry, if you will. I mean, now it's, now that the world has opened up, there's no longer just like 3 or 4 networks and then film.
Right.
In Canada, when I was there was the CBC, and later came the CTV. But that was it. If you were working in television, basically you were working at the CBC, which eventually I did. Or you were doing the odd little independent film, and occasionally an American movie would come up. They hadn't really discovered the benefit of that. I did Police Academy 3. That was one of the first things I did.
Now, were you based in, where were you, in Toronto, or were you in Vancouver?
Toronto, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't really know. I think it's become almost its own industry because of the dollar break and
oh yeah.
I mean,
well, you just did you shoot Revival up there as well?
We shot Revival. Yeah. Shot Revival in New Brunswick. I'd never been to New Brunswick, so it was interesting. It was interesting for a while, and then it was not that interesting. I just wanted to get out of there. It's cold and.
Well, I did, because in the 80s, Stephen Cannell in Vancouver had all these shows, and I did a bunch of these shows, and I did a couple of movies in Vancouver, and, came to love Canadians because they're awesome. And it was an experience, because when you'd go up in Vancouver in the 80s, it was like 10 or 12 TV shows from, Jump Street to, like just all these cop shows were shooting up there.
Yeah.
But you were on, this is wild, okay? I love doing this show because I have to interview my friends, and this is stuff I never knew about you. And so I'm doing this research, and of course I knew you were on Street Legal, but I didn't care at that time we were on JAG. Yeah. I didn't know that Street Legal, you played a lawyer. And then
No,
later,
I played a cop on.
oh, you played a cop. Okay.
I dated
Because then
a
later
lawyer.
in Fly By Night, you play a pilot. And so
Yes.
there's a lawyer and a pilot. And I was wondering if this was all prep for JAG.
No, I dated a lawyer. I was the love interest of the lead on Street Legal.
Okay. So you do a lot of these. I mean, it was like a couple of years on both of these shows, right? I mean,
Yeah,
for
I was
Fly By
doing
Night
that show. That show, and I think it was making $2,000 an episode, and which I
Sweet.
thought,
Yeah.
does it get any better than this? Because I was used to making, $200 to $300 a week doing theater, and
Right.
so that was like real. Oh my God, man, what am I going
I
to
can
do?
buy food and
Yeah,
rent.
I can buy. Yes, exactly. I got my own place, and I kept doing that show when I first moved to California. So I had this cushion that I would fly back every once a month and do an episode or two, and then come back and then I got a gig. I got that Fly By Night thing in Vancouver, which was a Canada-French co-production, but I was still doing Street Legal. So I would work 5 days in Vancouver. At the end of the day, Friday, I would take the red eye to Toronto. And then Sunday, I'd shoot all day because they were wrapping up my character. I had to do 5 episodes. And then I'd fly back on the red eye Sunday night. Monday morning, I'd go straight to the set and start working. So I went like that for a couple of months. It was brutal. And then we went
Yeah.
to Nice and finished shooting that series. And that series never went beyond 13. But
I'm going to kind of compress this only because I don't know if there's a connection or not, but I want to find out. You also did The Untouchables, which was for UPN, which was, again, like one of those networks that, like the WB or Fox, they were trying to be some big thing. But The Untouchables was this kind of really successful version of that storyline. Did they shoot that in Vancouver as well? Or
no,
where
they
were
shot
you
that
on
in Chicago. That was shot
Oh,
in
for
Chicago.
real? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shot in Chicago
Which is right
for 3
below
years.
Toronto, so the same area for you as far as
Yeah,
having known
that was
yeah.
I mean, you know this as well as that the process to get that job, the process to get JAG was
Yeah.
brutal. That show, I auditioned, and then I auditioned again, and then we got called in because you had to, not only did you have to go to the network, we went to Paramount. So we go into Paramount. It was a big casting director. I can't remember his name at the time. But there were 5 people out there, and we were going in for what we thought was one job. It turned out being 2 jobs. But he comes out in the waiting room, because this is basically the test, and says, whoever gets this job will be set for life.
Oh my God, how horrible.
Did you put a little more pressure on? Really? So we go in, we test, and then you go home, and then you wait all weekend.
Right.
And then
It's
Monday,
always 5 o'clock on a Friday. Make you wait.
it's
Yeah.
brutal. And then you wait all weekend. You're pulling and Monday, about midday, or maybe the end of the day, Monday, they said, all right, we need you to fly to Chicago tomorrow, and you're going to test again. Oh my God. So we fly to Chicago, test. We check. You get there late. Had to check out of the hotel, but we weren't going to read for Chris Crow, who was doing this show, who was the producer, until the afternoon. So we had to walk around with our luggage out of the hotel, walk on the streets of Chicago, wait until 3:00. We get there, we go in and do the audition, and we leave, and they go, all right, go home. So we go out with, I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 of us. We go to the airport. We get on the plane, and the plane is just about to pull away, and they mention my name. They go, hi, would David Elliott please stand up? I'm like, what? So I stand up, and all the guys who had read, they're all looking at me like, what the hell's going on? And they come and get me, and they bring me, there was a phone call. You have a phone call. I'm like, okay. Right outside the plane door, I grabbed this phone, and they said, hey, I need you. Someone's coming to pick you up. Get off the plane, grab your stuff, and go to the hotel. We'll call you in the morning. I'm like, okay, what's this regarding? We'll call you in the morning. I went, okay. So I get off the plane. I go to this hotel. They didn't have a room, so they stuck me in they brought a rollaway bed into a conference room where they have these, those accordion doors, and they blocked off your space for me to sleep. I sleep in there. There's a phone in there. And I get up early. I'm doing push-ups. I'm trying to get because I'm thinking I got to go back in and read again. And the phone rings at like 11. Go home. I'm like, go home. Oh my God! Didn't tell me what the hell was going on. I went home. Now I wait until the end of the week. Friday at the end of the day, they call and they say, "Yeah, you got the job." But they'd been considered. They wanted to replace the guy playing Elliott Ness, and they were going to get me to do it. But in the end, I just played one of the Untouchables. And we had it was. You want to talk about? We shot and we were shooting the pilot. There were 3 of us in one honey wagon room. I don't even think that's allowed, right?
That's not allowed.
In the middle of winter, 3 of us.
And you're all untouchable, so you're all big guys. Yeah. It's not even like you're small.
3 of us jammed in there. But that's a long story. But that's how I met Don Bellisario, was through Chris Crow on the Untouchables. I went in and tested.
Well, because Don and him have worked together before. He ended up writing on stuff as well. But
he did? Oh, was that okay?
Later,
well, Don was doing another series, which was kind of like an amalgam of every series he'd done prior. It didn't feel that inspired. This was for the pilot. I went in and read, and then they wanted to test me, so I flew in, and then Don drove me to the test himself, and I didn't get it. And then whoever got it, the show never went. But that's how Don knew who I was before I eventually came into test for JAG, which was, I don't know what it was like for you, but for me, it went on for like 2 months before I got the job.
We'll be back after these messages. Have you ever thought about becoming an actor and making your friends and family jealous? Well, have I got a deal for you. Here at Working Actors School, we offer many different classes so you can become a famous actor like me. And we have a delightful selection of classes, including Adult Weekly. It's every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Here you will learn how to be an actor with other adults. How do we do it? How is it possible? Is it a miracle? Yes, it is. A miracle called Zoom. We teach everything online so you can become a famous actor and impress your friends and family. So if you want to be a famous actor and make your friends and family jealous, then you need to sign up at Working Actors School. You can get a hold of us at workingactorschool.com. You can sign up for classes at workingactorschool.com. You can make a reservation for the class online at workingactorschool.com. So come check us out. It's workingactorschool.com. Act 2, Success. Good. Let's get into JAG. So just to rub your nose in it and to rub salt into the wound, here's my experience for getting on JAG. First, I was the first person cast on JAG. Second, because of my credits, I didn't read for the casting director. I went straight to producers, which is Don. And because I was a guest star on the pilot, I read once for Don, and an hour after my audition, they hired me.
Wow. Okay. Well, let me...
Now, what was your experience like that, David?
Yes. I went in, I read. They said, Greg, go home. 2 weeks later, I got called back in. I read again. Okay, thank you. Go home. 2 weeks later, I'll come in. I read again. Now, Howard Kazanjian, remember Howard Kazanjian?
Yeah.
He produced Raiders of the Lost Ark. He was a big Hollywood
Return
producer.
of the Jedi. He's a huge producer.
So in this third audition, I guess it was basically for Don to narrow it down for who to take to the network. And he tells this joke. I read and he stops. Hey, he does some directing. He tells me to stand at attention. He starts doing some drill stuff with me. I'm doing the best I can, with my limited knowledge of the military. And then he tells this joke and he makes Howard the butt of the joke, right? And I know Howard's a big deal. I also know Don's a big deal. And it was a funny joke. I don't remember what the joke was, but I remember I was laughing, but I'm looking over at Howard like, what am I going to... I mean, it's funny, but I didn't want to be disrespectful. I think it was his way of trying to see, how is he going to navigate this?
Yeah.
And I must have done okay. So because from then, I went to Paramount, and I tested there, and then I had to go to the network. It was a brutal process. This was over Christmas. In the new year.
Just so people understand, when you go in to read, in fact, Tina, my wife, who is a producer, would sit in on casting sessions, and they kicked her out of watching casting sessions because they said, you're giving too much reaction to the actors. Where the whole idea is when you walk in, because she's very helpful. It's like she's like, that's very good, very good.
Yeah.
As an actor, when you go in, it's like it's just, you do your thing, and then you leave. And you said 2 weeks would go by too. No one's calling you saying, "Hey, it looks really good. Things are happening." You don't know shit.
Yeah, generally.
So okay, so you're going through this process. 2 months in, you head to the network, and what happened after that?
I go to the network, but then I got the gig. Okay, I got the job. Now I got to go and read with partners. Okay,
Right.
I got all these women that I'm reading with, which is at the network. I go in and read with them, and then I'd leave the room. Well, the 30 executives in this small room, all jammed in there, And and this goes on for a few days, and I'm thinking they may go, maybe we were wrong about this guy. I'm not feeling it with him anymore. So it's like you're still auditioning, because it has happened where they've changed their mind during that process. So the stress, the tension was crazy. And this was just for a pilot. Now it was a 2-hour pilot, which...
and Don Bellisario, I mean, it was a big deal.
It was a big budget, you remember, you were there.
Yeah.
It was a 2-hour pilot, a big budget pilot.
It was the most expensive pilot shot at that time. I think it was $3 million, which is nothing now.
Nothing now, but then it was insane.
People were like,
even
what?
our episodes were over $1 million a piece, which was unheard of back then. But anyway, in the end, I got it, but it was a brutal process.
So Andrea Parker gets the role of Lieutenant Pike. And again, JAG has evolved so many times. At the pilot conception, it was you and Andrea, and you guys would go off and, fight crime. I was added in the pilot, or the character was there as just the PAO officer who's there to greet you. And like we discussed earlier.
Ensign Pulver.
Ensign Pulver.
That's what Don kept calling you, because that's kind of what you were. You were the Jack Lemmon.
Exactly. That guy. And it just worked kind of well. I mean, all three of us, she's still one of my favorite people.
Yeah.
And so we do the pilot, and again, like you're saying, this huge pilot is happening, and all these moving parts. I'd never been involved in anything from the beginning. You'd already done 2 TV shows. You'd already been through the process with the Untouchables. And I don't have to tell you this, David, but dude, there was something about JAG that was like relentless amounts of work. It was always a show that was like on the brink of blank. And it was just hours and hours and hours. So you go off to do this pilot. We're shooting the pilot. What were your thoughts when things are, Don wrote it and directed it, which can be good and bad, meaning that you get a direct line to an answer. He's going to tell you something, and that's the answer, because he's the writer, director, producer, godhead of the show. But it's also, there's no wiggle room. It's Don or it's not Don. What was your experience in that pilot situation with Don being the director and everything?
I loved working with Don. He was terrific on the pilot. Everyone had told me going in, they went, "Well, you're working with Don Bellisario? Get ready, man. He yells, and he's a very difficult man to work with." And I'm like, I don't know who they were describing, because that's not the guy I worked with on the pilot. Now, that guy showed up during the series, but on the pilot, which they called the honeymoon, it was a dream. He was great. I loved it. He was so supportive. It was, he was having a ball. I was having a ball. You and I were hanging out. We were in Corpus Christi. I remember we went for, we ate crawfish. We went at crawfish. We were hanging out.
So you do the pilot with Andrea Parker. I go off to do this TV show on Fox because I'm not a part of the regular cast.
Right.
Then the story I heard was that Don Ohlmeyer wanted a blonde for the girl, and so they fired Andrea and they hired Tracy. And then when Don moved to CBS, he got what he wanted. But that's what I heard. What happened for you? What was your experience? You do the pilot.
I don't know. I got a call. Don said they picked it up, but they don't want Andrea. I'm like, why? I don't know. They don't like her. They don't like her, but then they gave her own show. another
Yeah,
show.
she was on The Pretender.
Yeah,
Because when we went to CBS, he calls to get Andrea back, and she's doing The Pretender for
So
NBC.
I guess what you heard is probably what happened. I didn't hear that.
Okay.
I know that Don Omeyer, because I know when we went to the upfronts, I thought Don was, the 900-pound gorilla. And then I saw him around Don Omeyer, and he was a little, he wasn't suddenly this guy. You could tell who the big dog was, and it was Omeyer.
He's the buyer. He's the guy that runs
Yeah.
NBC, so you got to be nice to your boss. That's
Yes,
Don.
right.
Belisario's boss was Don Omeyer.
Yes. So anyway, I guess that's probably what happened. But then we had to go through the damn. I had to go back into the testing sessions again with people, and then they found Tracy, and then and then of course, then NBC dropped the show. NBC was never really behind the show. It was an odd. Right, they kept moving it. They put it on different nights. It was on Wednesday. It was on Tuesday. It was on Friday. It was on Saturday. It was like, and they never let anybody know where it was. The only reason we had an audience is people found it. People who liked the show liked it. Now, remember, this was during the Clinton administration. They were downsizing the military. People weren't really interested in a military show. They'd been beaten to death with Vietnam movies. It was kind of dragging, and then they dropped it while we were shooting. What Don decided, the last episode is going to be a cliffhanger. That way, if they drop it, they're gonna be left with a little mud on their face. And
Well, the story I tell, which was, it's one of my favorite stories, is like I was telling you earlier. I'd done this Fox TV show for 8 episodes, and I found out it was canceled when Don calls me and says, "Hey, you want to come do a real show? And I'm going to put you on JAG, and you'll play Bud and all this stuff." And so they get me to the set, and we're down shooting that last episode for NBC. We're down in Long Beach. We're at this ship, and Glenn Morshower's there, and John Ashton is there. And Don gathers the whole cast and crew to introduce me and, introduce that I'm going to be a part of the show. And he goes, "Come here, Patrick, come here." And he puts his arm around me. I was wrong. He wasn't introducing me. He was announcing to the cast and crew that the show had been canceled.
Yeah. Well,
But don't worry about it. I'm going to go, and we're going to get on ABC because ABC wants us. And he goes off to New York, but apparently Les Moonves at CBS calls and says, "Don't go to New York, or when you land in New York, come to me, and we'll put you on." And that's how we ended up at CBS. So now we're at CBS. I'm now part of the show. And once again, David James Elliott's the lone man standing. You're playing Harmon, but now the whole show is different. How did you find out that what did you hear? The show was canceled. So do your agents go, "Well, let's get you out there," or what happened?
yeah, there was a lot of interest to me. We were getting a lot of people wanted me to talk to me about doing something. It was pretty exciting. I remember it was a really exciting. I was getting excited again because there was a lot of interest in me, and then I get a call. Don's on the plane. Back when they had phones on planes, David.
Yeah.
Where were you? I've been trying to get a hold of you because, listen. I've been around, but we didn't really have I guess they had cell phones, but not everybody had a cell phone. I don't even know if it was on a cell phone that he called. Might have been on a cell phone. But anyway, he got a hold of me. He said he'd been trying to get a hold of me, right? And he goes, "We got a mid-season pickup." And I went, "Oh, really?" Right? "You don't sound excited." I go, "Because I'm not. I got some exciting stuff over here, but I'm still under contract. There's nothing I can do about it. He still owned me, And it's like, I'm like, "No, I'm excited. I just," and that's how I found out we got a mid-season replacement. I'm like, "Oh God."
So mid-season replacement, if you don't know, is when you get a brand new show, you get a full season order, which at the time was 22 to 24 episodes. The reason you weren't excited was because when you negotiate your contract as somebody that is unknown, basically, you get a certain amount of money because you're the lead, which is great. But by this time, you'd been on network TV for a year. So I'm sure any offer that's coming in now is going to be way beyond whatever quote you're getting for JAG.
Yeah.
But because you're under contract, A mid-season means you're going to do half the amount of episodes. They put you on starting in January, and now you're going to be your rate is the same, but your episode number is cut in half. So you're losing a ton of money. And also this show, which, I mean, we know what happened at the end, ran for 10 years, was a great success. But at this point, it's like exhausting. It's changed 3 times, and it's not even in its second season yet.
Yeah.
So Don calls you, he says, okay, then when do you start hearing all of these different additions? And they added my character and John Jackson.
Because we talked, and I was always involved. And I always felt that the show, the first season was more like a 70s episodic, right? It was like,
right.
We weren't the stars.
Right.
The star was the guest star. And you had a script that was 65 pages. Now a script is like 46 pages, right? Yeah. 47 pages. But back then it was 65 pages. You had an opportunity in the 70s when you watched episodic. You had an opportunity to get invested in the guest star. Now you don't really have, and this is one of the reasons why procedurals work. That's the star. Everybody supports the process they get to. Everybody kind of knows where it's going to go. It's a safe thing to watch. It's you can escape because you don't have to worry about any jarring thing happening. But anyway, at this point, I always felt that the show suffered from not being invested in the main characters. And I told Don that. I went, we need to involve their life in these stories so that we have, not only are we advancing the story per episode, but we have farther reaching investment in characters and their lives and what's going on with them that helps to hook people to come back week after week, not just because on an episodic, if you miss an episode, you didn't really miss anything. You're not going to not know what happened to the main character because you never really know beyond what his job is. So that's why when we were talking and I said, God, we should bring Patrick back. He brought a really great element to the show, just like Ensign Pulver did. What was it on Mutiny and the Bounty? Is that not Mutiny and the Bounty, but the Cane
Mutiny, Strawberry.
Cane Mutiny. I think that was it, right? Or whatever film
I think
it was.
The Cane Mutiny.
Which was a nice relief from this. So it just made a more roundabout and more investment friendly show. I was involved, man. I was always involved. I was always digging in, whether they wanted me to or not. I was always, every script I got, I would dig in and I would give notes and I'd go home at the end of a long 14, 16, 18-hour day and I'd work on this stuff. And if we just got the first episode, I'd pour through that, make notes, get on the phone with the writers or Don the next day. I just kept working. Don had told me in the very beginning, he said, everybody's going to look to you. If you give 50%, that's all you're going to get. If you give everything, then they will look to you. So I always consider that my job to give everything
I think
had.
you did. I mean, I want to talk to you about being number one in its own little area, but the idea of when you're on a TV show, it's such a monotonous grind because you're going to the same places, you're working with the same crew. It's not like a movie where you can have an intense period. It's the difference between a sprint in a movie and like a marathon on these TV shows. And for 10 years, I remember on episode 2, the Fair Winds and Following Seas, the very last episode of JAG, 224, 225, 200 and some episodes. I was in your chair and I looked in your thing and you still had your script marked up. It's like, it blew me away. It was like, here's a guy that never stopped working on that. And I mean, it really pays off. So in that last episode, Catherine Bell played the body in the very first scene of that episode of season 1. And then she put on like a full court press, wrote a letter, did all the things. And then they started interviewing people for the new girl. Because Don, the story again that I heard was Don Bellisario was so frustrated with Don Ohlmeyer that he wanted to get back to his original vision of what, the girl in JAG was going to be like, that that's why Tracy was kind of jettisoned. That's from what I understand. Again, no shade to Tracy, just like this was a battle between the two Dons. But then again, you're back in that situation where you're having to read with all these women, I would imagine, right? You're having to
I believe so. I don't really
tests?
remember that period really exactly, to be honest. And I don't know how much. I think it may have been. I probably did. Yes, I believe I did, but I don't really remember it. And I don't. They didn't ask my opinion on that piece of casting. I don't remember that, but I was busy. I think I was. Yeah. Don was like, "I'm gonna need you here." I'm
working.
yeah, but I said I'm gonna make more on this mini series than I'll make for the whole season of JAG.
Yeah.
I don't care. I said I can buy a house. I got a family. I got a child. I need to buy a house. Listen, I went. I remember that and apparently Warren Littlefield called him and said, "Don't worry about it. If you need him back here, we'll fly him back. But I need him on this." So he's going to do it because Don. This was when I first saw a side of Don that I had not seen before because he told me, he said, "You know what? You're not going to do it. Let me tell you a story about Tom Selleck. They cast him in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I wouldn't let him do it. And I'm not going to let you do this either." I'm like, why? Why? Come on, man. I thought you were like a nice guy. Then I went, oh my God, there's the guy that everybody told me, In the end, he lost that because Warren Littlefield called him and said, "Hey, I need him to do this." So he's doing it. But,
so we end up at season 2 of JAG, which is also like season 1 of JAG, because this is kind of the form that then went on for another 8 years. Or 9 years, or however long it was, as far as from this point. It was you as Harm, Catherine Bell as Mac, John Jackson as the JAG, and then myself as Bud. And this kind of core group, then we grew up. The lawyers were added, different things. We had JAG Ops. It became more of a structured idea because that first season was like, you guys were all over the world. I don't even think you had a standing set. So it was like,
no, we didn't.
Yeah. So let's talk about this one thing, which I talk about a lot in different formats, but I want to talk about specifically because we were both there. I want to talk to you about the honestly, how hard it is to make a TV show when you're number one. Okay. Number one means that you're the first person on the call sheet because you're in most of the scenes, because you are the star of the show, which is who you are in JAG. You're Harmon Rabb Jr. You're practically in every single shot, with the exception later on of the teasers where, kind of like the event happens and you're usually not in that. But then after that, you're practically in everything. When you're the number one on a show, like you were saying with Don, people look to you because you're the person that everyone is gauging on. If you don't give a shit, then why should they? If you care about it, then this guy really cares. We got to work hard at it. So there's a lot of responsibility there. The thing that was added to with JAG, and the thing that I never could fathom for me watching you, if you watch JAG, I gain and lose 50 pounds multiple times over the series of the show, right? I'm like, when I'm stressed, I'm at the craft service table. When, I'm happy, I'm, exercising. But when you're the lead of a show, not only are we working crazy hours, but you got to actually look good. That's part of your job, is to look good. Talk to me a little bit about the amount of stress, because people think, oh, TV stars, it's easy. All you got to do is go in and say a few lines and everyone does the work for you. This is the real schedule. On Monday, we would start at 6:30 and we would work for 12 to 14 hours average. That was the good years on JAG.
That was the good years at the end.
The good years. By Friday, we were usually getting a call. It was the first season was just, that's why we know each other so well. Like you were saying earlier, we would spend days together. By Friday, you're getting your call at 3:30 in the afternoon because you're going to work all night and then have a forced call on Monday. So the amount of hours that people put into this business, and that's us, that's the actors. There's the drivers, there's the crew, there's the camera, there's the sound, there's makeup. All of them have to be there. So everybody is in this together. What was your experience when you started this show? Because for 10 years, you were on, and that's got to be like so stressful.
I got a call in the first season. We had who was the DP?
Tom Del Ruth.
Tom Del Ruth. Okay, so we're about 4, 5 episodes in, and we're working 18, 19-hour days every day. I remember one day we were like 26 hours. We were lining up for third meal Saturday at like noon. We'd been, and people are taking individual orders. I'm like, this is insane. What are we doing? And Tom goes to Don and says, your boy's not looking so good. And I get this call from Don, right? And Don goes, David, are you burning the candle at both ends? Because you know what? Tom tells me you're not looking good. I'm looking at dailies. I said, well, first off, Don, I don't drink. So you're burning the candle. When would I have time? I look like
when you have a candle.
You're working me to death. Like I'm dragging in here. My eyeballs are hanging on the ground at the end every day. Oh, my God. Okay, well, all right, okay, no, I understand, all right, and then he left it alone. But those are the crazy, it's crazy. Nobody could figure out how to make this show. It wasn't until really Brad May came in and showed them how we could do this show and only work 12-hour days, because before him, we had guys like Alan Levy and these other guys would come in and they would just crush you. It was like they didn't want to leave the set. We're like, right. Do you not want to go home? How many takes of this do we have to do? We're going on 15 and you're going, you know what, just give me one, just change the frame, okay, all right, let's go again. I'm going, oh my God, man, it was brutal. And you remember.
Well, like you said, when we worked on the pilot, one of the great things with Don is he's the final say, right? So he knows what he wants, he wrote it, he produces it. The structure of working in television is it's a writer's medium. Don is a writer. He's the creator. They work on the scripts. And then when you get to the set, you hire these guys like Alan Levy or like, Ray Austin or whoever that have directed for their entire lives. And they are proficient. They are excellent directors for television. They know how to get things done. However, when you have a guy like Don Bellisario, where the director is rethinking everything he's shooting because he goes, well, what if Don wants coverage? Meaning that, he needs close-ups in this to cut to.
You don't get it. I think you're going to get an earful.
That Brad May came up with was Brad was a cinematographer before he was a director. Brad would shoot these oneers without coverage, which allows you to take a scene that would take 5 hours to shoot and do it in 2. And kind of like put himself on the line for Don's wrath if Don says, there's nothing to cut to. Who am I cutting to?
Yeah.
Because he couldn't cut it. So there's all these political dynamics which have a lot to do with your day-to-day life. I mean, you literally lived at the set. You would drive home to sleep and then come back. I was like that with you for the first couple of years, and then they kind of broke it up into the different storylines where, kind of we would have different things going on in the episodes.
Yes.
But those first couple of years were, to say it like that, first couple of years were, honestly, people just don't understand. It's not like I'm complaining, because it was one of the best times of my life. I loved doing the show. I loved working with you and the crew and everybody. But yeah, it was crazy amount of hours. Okay, so we're working really, really hard on JAG. We worked with a guy by the name of Matt Siglock, with Brian Bernstein, with, all these great guys that we kind of grew up together with, and just a really great, Matt was our military technical advisor. I always like to shout him out because the guy works so hard, and it's such a big part of the show. When we started going down these roads, like you were talking, that you wanted some sort of stakes for the character overall. Do you have like a favorite Harm storyline? Doesn't have to be an episode, but like what did you like about working as Harm for so many years?
I mean, I think I had favorite episodes, and I had guys I loved working with. You know, I think it was the opportunity to practice my craft every day like that. That was just, you know, when I look back, that's what I loved about it. It was really hard for so many other reasons, politics and all the madness that went. But that was the hard stuff. The great stuff was when we were working, you know, when we were doing our jazz. It was all the extraneous stuff that was brutal. Can you swear on this talk show?
Yeah.
Because I want to tell you the funniest story to get back to the work in the long hours. Remember when we were doing that episode? It was with the hillbillies, right?
Yeah.
I think it was, and I just was hanging with him a little. Cut. What was his name? You know what I'm talking about?
I know. Oh, there am I. I don't know the name of the guy. Who is it?
Gosh, and I just was hanging with him in Vancouver. My old friend. Anyway, he was directing the episode, and we were going on like hour 20,
Right.
and it's Saturday morning, and I'm just standing at the craft service table. I look over, and there's one of the grips. And I'm going, I don't even know how I'm trying to think. I can't even think. And he looks up at me and he goes, I would blow you on national TV if they would let me go home right now. That is so perfect. Jesus Christ. That's where we were. Oh, my God.
That's how you felt, man. It was just, I mean, everyone... It was like you're making a ton of money. Overtime is great.
Greg Beeman, that was it.
Oh, Greg Beeman. Oh, yeah, Greg is a great director.
Great director. He was directing that episode. Oh, God. So
yeah, it was. So when you get to play this character for so long, you said you had favorite episodes. What was your favorite?
You know, I think early on I loved Tony directed that thing where, God, it was with this
Tony Warmby was one of my favorite.
Tony Warmby, yeah.
Well. Yeah.
It was one of my faves. And this was these flashback episodes where the guy who had known my father, I think, and I just remember working with Tony. I loved Tony. Was one of the guys who came on to direct that would go deeper, that he was into character and he wasn't into shots. Like Alan Levy was a very technical director. There was a lot of technical guys. Tony was not that guy. Tony was about.
He was one of the only directors I remember
story.
who would stand by the camera and not in video village.
Yes,
he would
yeah,
watch you like 5 feet from you.
Yeah, that's the way they used to do it. I mean, you know, they used to be before they had the video playback, or a lot of shows couldn't afford the video playback before it became so synonymous with TV. They would stand next to the lens right up front to see your face so they could see what the lens saw. I was used to that, and Tony did it, and because he was old school, and I loved the episodes that he directed. I mean, honestly,
to this day, he gave the best direction I've ever received from a director ever. He goes, "All right, that was wonderful. I want a little bit less. I want to smell it, but I don't want to taste it." Which is just like for an actor who's looking for gradations. I mean, it's just such a great description of how to emote something. We'll be back after these messages. Hey there, I'm Patrick Labyorteaux, and I've been an actor since I was a little kid, so I know what it's like to be a little kid actor. So I have a class here called Youth Weekly, and that meets every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, and it is an awesome class if you are young and want to learn all about acting. We have a great set of kids, and it's taught on Zoom, so you can do it from anywhere. You can do it on your phone, you can do it on your laptop, on an iPad. It's awesome. I've had kids take a class while they were in the car coming back from soccer practice. I swear to you. So if acting is in your blood, come to workingactorschool.com and check out the Youth Weekly class every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. I'll see you there. Act 3, present day. What would be the worst thing about working on JAG? I mean, no personal attacks. I don't care
Well,
about
you
that.
know,
But
no,
like,
no.
At the time, I guess, right?
It was the hours were the worst, and then when they finally got that taken care of, in the end, I don't know what it was like for you, but in the end, after 10 years, I reached a point where every year it became harder and harder to peel that onion, and I just was like, I started seeing what felt to me like the same script. We've done this script already, and here we are
Right.
doing it again because they're, for some reason, they are running out of ideas, and it started to become. I didn't feel it was as inspired, and I was having a harder time getting excited about doing the same thing. And then they came to me and they wanted me to drastically reduce. They said, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this show anymore. Maybe we can do a couple movies, but your salary is going to have to go way down. And I'm like, I said, oh, okay. Is Don's salary going way down? Yeah. No. I went, well, then why,
I'm Scottish,
then I'm
right?
out. Yeah. I mean, if everybody's doing it, or I'm the only guy who has to do it. I mean, come on, man. So, in the end, that's sort of when it died for me. I just went, it's just not that fun anymore. And,
Here's the
things
interesting
started
thing, and I have a
explode.
theory about this too, for when you're talking about a TV show, right? So this is a perfect example of that. Harm and Mac, more specifically Harm, because it's through the whole series, he's like the center of the wheel, right?
Yeah.
Bud is on the outskirts of the wheel. So around the wheel, the center can't really change because that's who people are coming to see.
That's what they
So your
designed.
character,
Yes.
right. Yeah, and so my character, I lost my leg, I got married, I had kids, I had all these different things that I was playing, which Harm, you had a couple of little kids that you kind of adopted and took care of, but then you didn't. You had a relationship with Mac that was like, the shippers were all at Twitter about, will they or won't they? And you play that will they or won't they for so long that, like you're saying, the cycle begins to repeat.
Yeah.
I get it when you're a lead number one and your character isn't exploring anything new because you can't, because you're the center of the show. Mm-hmm. So the show ends. We leave on another cliffhanger. Is Mac and Harm going to get back together again? And then I just want your opinion on this. I'll give my opinion so you're not out there in the wilderness. You come back to do NCIS LA. Run by our buddy R. Scott Gemmell, who's now running the Pit, just won an Emmy. He's great writer from the very beginning. He's running that show. He brings you and Catherine back on. I love Scott. I love you guys. I thought that show was horrible. I just couldn't get over what they did to the characters or what they didn't do with the characters. It was kind of like this, just will they or won't they, but did they or didn't they? What happened? I was really frustrated with it just as a person watching it. Thought you guys were great, but it's like, I didn't know what they were doing with it. What did you think about that whole experience going into NCIS LA and being reunited with Catherine and Scott?
Well, that was Scott's idea. I went to Scott and pitched an idea for a series, and in which the Harm character, or somebody similar to the Harm character, is now running the as an admiral, is now running the Top Gun school in San Diego at Miramar. And he liked the idea, but he said, let's do this. Why don't I? Because I think it was something that he always wanted to do. I think he wanted to bring back the Harm and Mac characters and resolve something on the show. So let's do, and we'll use that maybe as a launching point, and I'll go to CBS and I'll talk to them. I'll play with the idea. And he wrote a script that was terrific. It was a great script, man. It was really good. For this potential pilot. But CBS was going through some crazy stuff, and they were changing the guard, and when that comes in, everybody wants their fresh ideas, and they didn't want to do. I don't know. They didn't want to do whatever. They didn't dig it, and he got nowhere with them, and And so I don't know what my opinion was, to be honest with you. I was pretty busy at the time. I was doing a movie. I came back. I was shooting those scenes, and um, I did it because he wanted me to, and I thought it would be a means to an end. And I love Scott. I still hang with Scott. Sometimes I have lunch with him and stuff. He's such a talented guy, and this new show is killing it. It's a great idea, and and he
Another
found
Canadian.
another Canadian. I knew him. I didn't know him in Canada, but did you go to his wedding? I went to his wedding. Yeah, I went to his wedding. Yeah, we were. I loved the guy, man. So I don't really have an opinion, to be honest with you. I don't even remember. Maybe I'm just.
Yeah. It was curious to me because, again, there's a lot of reasons for things always when you're doing a creative thing.
Yeah.
As a fan, as a person who knew the characters, I just felt I needed to see you and Catherine in more scenes together, like to have face-to-face. I think your first interaction in the show is over screens, which, technically maybe there wasn't availability for both of you at the same. I don't know what it was, but it felt like it needed more of that. Let's get to this question, though. Everything's being rebooted.
Yeah.
Would you come back and be Harm? Would you be the JAG if they reboot?
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about it,
Yeah,
but
I
I'll
think
start
so.
the rumor now.
I think. I said that you never say never. When I was out doing Revival at Comic-Con, they asked that at, I think it was Entertainment Tonight, and then suddenly it made all these headlines that people talking about it. They're like, would you come back? I go, I guess I would have to be the John Jackson character where I'd be, as he wouldn't be trying cases, so it wouldn't be as much fun. They'd want somebody else, but, right? Who knows? I guess it would depend. It would depend on the script and depend on a lot of things.
Well,
but
if
I
anyone's
love the
asking me,
character.
it doesn't depend. I'm already doing episodes of JAG.
Oh God! I know there was. What was I going to say to you? I forget now. But I loved working with you, man. I remember when I was directing. Remember that episode I was directing, and the snake. Your snake. You have this poison snake from. It was evidence for some trial, and it escapes. And we were shooting it, and I said, look up and go, Mama. And the way you did it was, it was on the floor laughing. It was so, you look at the cage, you go, the snake's gone, and you look up and you go, Mama. It was so funny.
Well, this goes back to when you spend that many hours, then it's just me trying to make David laugh. Let's talk about that. You directed 3 episodes. What was that whole experience?
I loved that, man. That was the first one. They told me you have to have every shot ready. You got to know every shot you're going to shoot in the whole episode.
Producers are always afraid of actors who are directing the first time. They don't think they can do it.
Oh my God, man, I gotta. And I was still working. I'm still in every episode. I'm still number 1 on the call sheet.
Yeah.
And so over a whole weekend, I sat in my room. My wife left me, locked the door in the bedroom, and I went through and I looked, and I'm like, oh my God, I had all these questions. Like, how am I going to know how close to shoot the close-up? How am I going to know? I'm trying to twist my head into. I'm watching stuff on TV. I'm trying to get a feel because I hadn't directed before, you know, and I'm trying to figure out how it's going to cut in my mind. Anyway, I went. It was exhausting, but I had a script. I still have it somewhere, and it is just annotated beyond. And I had that with me because you can't go off a plan unless you have a plan. You can't shoot from the hip as so many of these guys do, and it doesn't always work. But and then I discovered that you're going to know when you're shooting, when the close-up, you're going to know intuitively how close you want that shot. But when you're
and also the other thing too, on a show like that where you've got a precedent of what the show looks like, your cinematographer is going to set your frame for the most part. As the director, you're going to go, I want to come down like this, and then you watch and you see what they're doing, and then you work together.
But we had that. We had that. He was a great cinematographer, but then he says they were always on me about time. We gotta, you gotta go.
Was Hugo your DP?
No, Hugo. They were doing Don's other pilot.
First Monday. Yeah,
First Monday, and so I had Don. I forget his name now, Don, but he was
Right.
he designed a beautiful shot, and I was like, Don, we got to move. And he goes, hey, when they hired me, they didn't ask me if I was fast. They asked me if I was good. I'm going, why are you doing this to me, man? You know, they're killing me. It's my first direction opportunity, and you're going to lay that on me? Really, man? You can't work with me a little bit? I mean, come on, dude. Uh, anyway, I loved it. I loved seeing what I imagined coming to life. I loved directing you really a lot.
You're having an actor as a director too can also be what you did, which is really good as a director, is you understood how to talk to me, but you didn't act through me. A lot of actor directors want to puppet the performances, but you didn't. That was good.
I tell you who
How
was.
come you didn't? Have you directed more of anything, or did you just?
No,
sort of
I never did anymore. I mean, you know what I did do is remember. I think it was during the pilot we talked about, because I was telling you crazy experiences from my youth, and we thought we started talking about movie ideas, and you had given me this title, Bedlam, and I wrote the script for Bedlam. I should
really?
send it to you. Yeah, I wrote it.
I remember the first thing was it was fade in, and it was like a bar fight in Milton, and it said the Middle Ages.
Yes, and I use that. If you want, I'll send you the script. You can read it.
I would love that. Now, you had a real band. What was, if I remember correctly, was the real band called the Lone Gunmen?
No.
No. What was your band's name for real? David.
We were called the Assassinators. Which my brother had a band called the Sophisticados. That was for the bands, and the Dynamics was a band I was in.
Well, while we're here, just quickly, David James Elliott is not your birth name. How did you get to be David James Elliott?
Because somebody had my name in Canada when I joined the theater union. Somebody had my name, so they said you can't have that name, or the checks will wind up being sent to the wrong places. So you got to have a different name. So I went, crikey! And there was a name that I wanted that I wish I'd taken, which was my uncle's name. His name was James Layden. And that's a great name. And my
very heavy drama name,
James Layden, man.
Academy Award winner James Layden.
My teacher, teacher at theater school said, "Well, everybody's going to think you're related to Leo Layden." And I went, "Oh, I don't even know who Leo Layden is, and I still don't really know who Leo Layden was. I think he was a famous Canadian actor, or somewhat famous." So then I came up with, my mother said David Elliott, who had been my arch enemy growing up. I went, oh, okay, I'll go David Elliott. And then when I moved to the U.S., there was a David Elliott, right? And I went, Christ. So I thought, I'll get a middle initial. And so SAG said, well, here's the rule. If you want the middle initial, you have to get permission from David Elliott. So I call this guy and I said, hey, apparently I got to get your permission to use the middle initial to have David Elliott. And he goes, let me think about it for the weekend. And then he called me back and he said, no. I'm like, really? So then I had to add a third name, which my agent gave me. He goes, well, how about James? I went, okay, all right. I had a job. Oh yeah, I had
Untouchables,
China Beach, and I had to have a name. So I'm like, all right, we'll go with that. So that's how it happened. But it was by committee that I wound up with the name. I don't even really like it.
This isn't a regular question, but it's such a unique situation. You're famous as David James Elliott. You're known as that. I know you as that.
Yeah.
Do you when you think of yourself, who are you in your head?
I guess I think of myself as David Elliott now, DJE. Yeah. Now. Yeah. I didn't for a long time, but now I do. Unless I'm in the Bahamas, and then I got to deal with my legal name all the time, and then I become, my legal name. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did another project together, but we never worked together. We did, again, it was our friend Brad May, did a movie called The Storm, or Megastorm, or the Ultimate Storm. We were both in another big event movie for NBC. I played a paramedic, you played a general. But we never worked together.
Right.
Another coincidence is you did a show called Dad's Home, and Tina, my wife, and I created a show called Daddy's Home for Nickelodeon, which was then retitled See Dad Run, but we had that kind of weird combination. But then since JAG, you've done 1,000 things, man, like a whole nother career. Scoundrels, GCB, Mad Men, Good Christian Bitches, which I like the regular title, Secrets and Lies, Impulse, Spinning Out, and now you're doing Revival. How did you like working on those shows compared to being the linchpin on JAG, where everything was
nothing
on your
really.
shoulders?
I mean, it was great to play. Heels was a fun show that I recurred on, where I played a wrestler. I mean, you know, it's fun to play character stuff. It was something that I looked forward to in my life when I was on JAG. I thought, but nothing really compares to having had the opportunity to really dig into a character the way we did on JAG. And none of those gigs, they'd go 2 years sometimes, but that was it. Nothing really lasted that long, man. Nothing. You don't
Nothing
really
really
have,
does. I mean, it's such a
nothing,
unique
no.
situation to have.
Yeah.
You know, of all people, I just talked to Sean Murray, who's now on season 48, 49, 60 of
crazy.
NCIS.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't even know, for 10 years to have a show or to have a job in this business on a regular is amazing. And what's so weird for that, for if people don't know, JAG created NCIS, and then basically when our show ended, the crew went to go to NCIS. So if you go to do NCIS, you know, it's the same literal place, offices.
You did some of those,
crew.
didn't you?
Yeah, I have. I've done a bunch of them. And in fact, on one of them, before you guys were on NCIS, I pitched to Horowitz, and they added it. I said, people really want to know what happened to Harmon Mack. Can I add this line? And I added a line where I'm talking to Sean Murray, his character, whatever, Proby. He says, hey, how's Harmon Mack? And I go, oh, you'll never believe it. The secret, here's what's happened to Harmon Mack. Harmon Mack, and then right before I'm about to tell what happens to you guys, someone interrupts us and we have to go on with the scene. But I kind of like, you know, did a little tease for everybody. We'll be back after these messages. Hey, I'm Patrick Labyorteaux, and I play an actor on TV, and I've been doing this for a long, long time. And I know what it's like if you are in a class with people, and sometimes you just want to have that one-on-one connection with the person that you're working with to go over, I don't know, a particular scene, or maybe you have an audition, or maybe you just want the privacy to try stuff that you don't really know is going to work and not have anyone look at you. Well, I have the perfect solution for you. It's called One-on-One with Patrick Labyorteaux. You can book your time at workingactorschool.com, and it's just me and you for an hour going over whatever it is you want to work on, breaking down the script, talking about character, figuring out your intention, the spine of the scene, everything that goes in to making a dynamite performance. So if you're interested in acting and want that one-on-one personal attention, check out One-on-One with Patrick Labyorteaux. You can find all the information you need at workingactorschool.com. Act 4, questions. We're here at the questions. These are just standard questions that you can, answer or not. Real simple. First one, they're called Tina's Gotta Know, because Tina came up with these questions. Tina wants to know, number one, that's SheauxBiz. What would you say is the most Hollywood moment in your life?
I guess when I did Trumbo, I played John Wayne, and we were nominated for a SAG award. That was a Hollywood moment.
Yeah, for real. Love that.
I was hanging with Helen Mirren and Bryan Cranston at the table right up front to the stage. Waiting. We didn't win it, but we were there. That was a big Hollywood moment, I guess.
Anytime you can say Helen Mirren, it's a great moment.
Yeah.
Number two, that's SheauxBiz Part 2. What's your most embarrassing Hollywood moment?
They were taking pictures. I'm entering, I don't even remember where it was, but we're doing the photo, you know how you do the photo thing, and they're taking pictures, and Jim Carrey comes in, and I guess he doesn't realize I'm there, and he walks right in, he stands right in front of me, and he starts and they're taking pictures. I'm like, oh my God. I don't know why I didn't pick him up and move him. I'm going, really? So that's probably my most embarrassing moment.
That's pretty funny. Okay, number 3, Show Me the Money. What is your biggest missed financial opportunity? We get lots of opportunities in Hollywood.
Well, I was casting Zorro.
No.
And I was going to be the third or fourth lead in Zorro, the bad guy. And Moonves called me and said it was it was going to start after the 13th episode, which was all they'd ordered for the mid-season replacement. I already was working on the sword play, and I was going to get paid $1 million. And Moonves called me and said, "Sorry, kid, I can't let you do it." I'm like, "Why?" And he ordered extra episodes, and then when they recast it, he canceled the order, and so that was my biggest missed opportunity. My biggest miss.
Oh, man, I hurt for you. That sucks.
Yeah.
Number 4, Show and Tell. As a teenager, what was your favorite poster in your room, and how did you get it?
I don't think I had any posters. I don't think my parents would allow me to put posters on the wall or direct the paint job, so there were no posters. I think maybe later in life I had some of those. In my time, it was those glow in the dark things. So might have been a Monsieur Zigzag poster. I believe I had one of those. I put it inside my closet.
A little blacklight. I like it.
Yeah, blacklight poster. That's what they were. Yeah.
Okay, number 5, Sheaux Down. Okay, so this is creatively, not personally, because kids are always the right answer. What's the best thing you ever did and the worst thing you ever did? As far as like the thing you're most proud of acting and the worst piece of acting you've done.
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, there's so many, probably so many bad ones. Here's the thing about me is I don't watch. I stopped. Well, I used to watch dailies when JAG started, and then after a while, I went, I can't do that. It's out of my control. It's no longer has anything to do with me, so I don't watch. I make my wife watch stuff and let me know if it was any good. So I can't really say. I was forced to watch Trumbo because I had to keep going to these, screenings and stuff. And in the end, I didn't, there were really some stuff in there that I was very proud of, probably. And as far as the worst goes, there's just probably too many to imagine. I just imagine, but I don't know. You could tell
Well, then
me.
instead of that, then what was your favorite shooting experience and your least favorite shooting experience?
They may both have been on JAG.
Could very well be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
225 hours. That's a lot.
There was.
TV.
Yeah. I mean, because I don't want to. Some stuff I think is best left unsaid. But yeah, they may both have been on JAG. Really. Although, I've had some amazing, beautiful experiences working with people on shows and then other things that are just, status quo. I mean, just, and there's been some really uncomfortable things that I've had to do that I would rather not relive here on the Patrick Labyorteaux show. But suffice it to say that maybe they were both on JAG.
Fair answer. Okay. No show. What part did you want but didn't get?
So many parts I wanted that I didn't get. There were. Listen, I was supposed to be the Grant Show character on Melrose Place, right? They were going to do a 6-episode character where they established the character on 90210, and then they were going to write this show, Melrose Place. And I was going in to test for it. And that morning, I got a letter from my best friend telling me he didn't want to be my friend anymore. And he gave me all these reasons. It was so devastating to me at the time. And I was living with Nancy at the time. We weren't married yet. I don't think we were married. Anyway, we had one car, and I'm going to Fox to test. I'd gone through all the stuff I'd read for what they called Papa spelling. Very interesting experience. I'm reading in his office, and he's got his pipe, and he leans right into my face, sucking on the pipe. And I'm like, I'm trying to read him. It was so bizarre. Anyway, then I'm going to test at Fox, and on the way there, this guy comes flying out of an alley and T-bones me, totals the car, knocked me flying into the other side of the car. I get out, I'm like, oh my God, I got to go to this screen test. I had to call a cab. They towed the car away. I got in this cab. I make it there. I get there late. I'm a little shook. I go in and I fall apart. And it was Buck Edelman Casting who cast it, and I didn't get it. It went to Grant Show.
Wow.
But I get this call to show up from my agent, said, Buck Edelman want you to come to their office. It was in the Valley. They want you to come there today. I go there.
Across from Radford, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and they say, I go in the office and they go, what happened to you? It was your job going in and you blew it. You embarrassed us. You will never be called in on anything with us ever again. I'm going, well, it's not bad enough that I didn't get it? You had to make me drive all the way over here to tell me this? It was bizarre. So that was a very unpleasant experience.
Oh my God, I've never heard of anything like that. I used to date a girl who was in Mary Buck's office, and for her to go that far, they must have gotten reamed out.
I guess they must have got reamed.
That doesn't make any.
I tried to explain to them; they didn't seem to care. So
that sucks.
But you know what? I wouldn't have got JAG had I have got that. That would have been a whole other trajectory.
Right. Well, no, there's reason. I mean, it's that, the destiny thing.
The reason for everything, yeah.
Yeah. All right, number 7. What movie has most influenced you when you watch movies? What's the one that you look back to and go,
there's so many movies that I love. Patton was a movie I would watch because it when I felt like it was never going to turn my way. There's a scene in Patton where he's lamenting the fact that he'd been pulled, right, because he slapped the soldier and they made him. He had to go do all this embarrassing stuff. He had to, and he's standing in a hallway and he turns to his aide and he goes, "I'll get a command." I know he knew it was going to happen. He just decided that God would not have brought me this far to let me down. Now he wouldn't do it. I'll get a command. That and The Greatest Story Ever Told. I used to watch that when I felt like things were never going to turn my way. Those two, in that respect, are movies that I would go to.
It's funny you bring up Patton because I never realized it before this moment, but whenever I'm doing Don Bellisario, that's who I'm doing. He's Patton to me.
George C. Scott, man. I read Patton's autobiography that he wrote from his journals during the war, and that movie is pretty much right out of that book. It's fascinating. What an interesting guy. Yeah.
So moving on to number 8, Sheaux Me Again can be a completely different one. What movie do you rewatch the most? What's your comfort movie?
You probably wouldn't see this movie coming, but Notting Hill I may have seen maybe more than any movie.
It's a great movie.
I think it's a perfect movie. There were a lot of comedies that we watched. Nancy and I rewatched, but Notting Hill, I think, is the one we watched the most. I also watched The Count of Monte Cristo, the older one, a lot. Love that movie.
You turned me on to a movie with Michael Caine called Shock to the System.
Yes. What a great! I've seen that maybe 10 times. Isn't it? A bibbity boppity.
Yeah.
Ooh. So good.
All right, and finally, show me some love. What's your favorite performance of mine?
Well, it was. Weren't you the pizza delivery guy in? What was that?
Three Ninjas.
Yes.
No way.
Yeah. No, Bud. It would be Bud. Bud is my favorite Labyorteaux.
Yeah.
show.
Well, this one is this episode obviously is really special because, like I said at the top of it, and we've kind of alluded to it, I don't know of any other person that I will ever be as close to professionally as far as working the amount of hours that you and I work together, and so many of those hours. Because look, friendships, time, people. You're always going to have days that are bad or days that you just don't, I can't get over. I want to get out of this day. But for the most part, I want to say this to you specifically. I really, really appreciate what you brought to being number one on the show. Like you said, and I will back this up, it wouldn't have been the show it was without David James Elliott being the actor that you are, the amount of work that you put in, not just the hours, but like the real life work. You cared. And when that happens, and when you have my job there was to be funny and to bring in levity. And a lot of people, just because Harm wasn't, the biggest crack up, don't know that you're a really funny guy. That you saw that and you helped fight for that, or you would, you'd say the right thing to the right director, like, oh no, that's kind of funny, keep that in. Which, is a big deal for another actor to have someone kind of in your
corner,
on your side.
Yeah.
Obviously, JAG's a huge part of my life. Found my wife there. We had a kid. You and Nancy had a couple kids during the show. Nancy was on the show. But this was really special. I really want to thank you for doing this, and it was great.
Thank you. Thanks, man. I loved being on your show.
It's the Patrick Labyorteaux, Patrick Labyorteaux. He's the one you gotta know.
Hey, everybody. I'm so glad that you're enjoying the podcast and checking it out. It is an audio podcast wherever you get your audio podcast, and it's a video podcast over on YouTube. My socials are all patrick.labyorteaux. And that is on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok. I'm everywhere. If you want information on the school, you can go to workingactorsschool.com. We have classes going all the time. It's a lot of fun. I suggest you check it out. Hey, we'll see you next time.
It's the Patrick Labyorteaux, Patrick Labyorteaux. He's the one you gotta know.